Hey, we continue with the chapter reading of 33 Strategies of War by Saif al-Adel, otherwise known as Mohamed Salah al-Din al-Halim Zaidan, a book about how to train Islamic militants in the act of a terrorist operation. And the reason why I'm reading the chapters of this book is because we have to know the mind of the terrorists and why they're attacking and how they're attacking in the first place, and the training that's involved here is not just for the physical but also for the uh, psychological. And this chapter talks about the psychological strategy of balance and equilibrium. When circumstances become difficult, some commanders may lose their balance in the face of the pressure of events. Unexpected defeats, doubts from companions, criticisms from allies, media attacks, discouragements, weakening factors, the shaking of ranks, soldiers' uncertainty, losing direction, and emotional reactions arising from fear, desperation, hopelessness, and so on. In these moments, you must resist and allow these moments to pass and overcome them. Resist emotional pressures. He's talking about the morality that's innate in all of us. To resist that little voice in your head saying this is wrong, because what Saif al-Adel is trying to create is the mindset of a monotonous soldier with a single goal in mind, and that is to kill and maim the enemy of their interpretation of Islam. But they're not Islamic, these people. They're not pious individuals. Maintain your rational equilibrium and psychological balance so that the flow of events does not divert you from your main path. The ship of honor continues to call despite the turbulent waves. And he's, Saif al-Adel is trying to persuade or propagandize, that's the better word, manipulate the individual to resist his innate morality, as well as the distractions of others who are probably telling him, if they know about the operation or what he's about to do, those in his circle. It could be family, it could be friends, associates, or even within his own unit. To do not allow for distractions to overcome the the the, the clear mindset of killing the enemy. And so the chapter of this book focuses on that which is uh, going to deter the individual from his mission. And if you go down the chapter, because it goes from 39 to 52, this is the key area of the chapter. Leaders must also be aware of how their generals criticize their plans, because there may be a fire smoldering under the ashes, and smoke and dust could be hiding a conspiracy or coup, meaning that the commander of a unit, like say in the Mumbai attacks, where you had a commander talking with, I think it was like 6 individuals that were involved in the Mumbai terrorist attacks, where they attacked the train station, I think the Marriott Hotel or the Ramdan Hotel, something like that, and shooting into a store where they killed a couple of Jews and tourists in the hotel, and they set it on fire, and they all were talking with a commander who was overseeing the operation to make sure that these people go along with the plans and don't be distracted. That's exactly what's going to happen, I think, here in the next terrorist attack in the United States, is that you'll have a number of different units in different cities, but a commander or a three-headed commander, two-headed commander, or a single commander operating, telling them, what to do. or you have a single commander for that specific unit in that specific city. And he has to know about the atmosphere and the psychology of the individuals involved with the unit itself. And that's what this chapter is talking about. Here we must pay attention to a very important point. Some of the sincere ones sometimes object and also criticize, meaning that people within their own group or their family members, telling them, do not do this. This is wrong. Perhaps some of the behavior is harsh, but their goal is correction, improving the path. Only a wise leader can understand their intention and goal. However, ignorant leaders quickly interpret their public criticism as sarcasm and disloyalty, turning criticism and objection from a perspective of reform into a personal issue and equating them with misguiders and opponents. These leaders quickly take action to dismiss or sideline these individuals. We must distinguish between criticism and objection for reform and the type that moves toward destruction. Make sure these people who are undertaking this operation do not talk with family or friends who might dissuade them from their overall goal. To avoid being deceived by appearances, always try to have two parallel paths for gathering information and observing the picture. One through the soldiers and subordinates, and the other that you personally carry out directly. In this way, you will see the full picture. In other words, the people that are involved in an operation, the commander of the operation has to know where this unit's attacking and how they're attacking and what they're attacking. All the descriptive details, whether it's bombing a bridge, bombing a plane, bombing a restaurant, a stadium, or attacking using unconventional means, guerrilla type operations. They have to know everything. Some coalitions are practically useless, and sometimes they are an evil that must be endured, but their presence keeps the enemy occupied and distracted. Some shorted allies only care about what they can get. Others are obsessive, surrounded by fear, seeing danger in every corner, discouraged by the smallest defeats, and their minds are disturbed by threats. Others are constantly engaged in criticism and skepticism, disrupting cooperation and progress. Some consider abandoning the coalition, while others knowingly or unknowingly corrupt it. Some hear with their ears, but deny in their hearts and argue with falsehood. Some seek a larger share of the spoils without sending their soldiers to fight. And they are the hypocrites. More than hypocrites, because they are foolish and short-sighted. Be careful not to get involved with them so that you do not lose focus on the enemy. That is key. Do not doubt yourself. That's what Saif al-Adel is telling the operative. Don't doubt yourself. Don't be distracted by foolish moral arguments, because the greater goal is Jannah, heaven. The Arabic word for heaven is Jannah. To use deception, to use whatever means, to listen to the emir or their commander, who knows more than you on how to achieve paradise, because they are foolish and short-sighted. Be careful not to get involved with them so that you do not lose focus on the enemy. Focus on the enemy. Keep them occupied with their own issues. Distance yourself from them. You do not rely on them. You do not disrupt your coalition with them, because in a way, they keep the enemy engaged. And on the other hand, they do not join the opposing side. In this way, you will succeed in neutralizing them. In other words, do not listen to the moderate Muslim. Do not listen to the pious Muslim, because they'll dissuade you from the ultimate goal of killing the enemy. And who's the enemy? The enemy is the West. You have billions of Muslims in the world. And to some Trump voters, you would think that Islam is the enemy, and it's not. The enemy are these types of people that do right and wrong. There is no gray area here. There are people who do right and wrong. People who could do good and evil. These people are not using Islam as a moral shield. They are using it as a precursor to kill and maim the enemy. But at nowhere in Islam or the Quran does it state that you kill indiscriminately. It doesn't say that. I think it's in the book of Al-Madinah, where it basically says that if you kill one life, it's as if you have killed the entire of mankind. The development of the ability to predict is a blessing called insight, the sixth sense, and it can be particularly enhanced in military affairs. One of the steps that help develop this ability is avoiding sin, because the believer succeeds in his speech and his insight is true due to his sincere adherence to his faith and divine success. In other words, the Salafist mentality, the Wahhabi mentality, which is, an abridgment of the Quran. It has nothing to do with Islam, Wahhabism, Salafism, Jihadism, Takfiri, all this. They're all corrupted, the words of the Prophet Muhammad, because this is not from the Quran. It's coming from the Hadiths. And people like, translators like Ibn Taymiyyah or Muhammad Hassan or Ibn Baz or any of these other terrorists from the past and present, like Osama bin Laden, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, Abu Zubayr, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. They utilize their teachings. Muhammad al-Maqdisi, these people. Ahmed Rafai Taha, all these like so-called self-professed leaders of individuals, groups, organizations that promote this, heresy to, young disenfranchised minds, easy to propagate, easy to polarize and propagandize. For example, new weapons, specifications, tactics, how to use them, and the time required for training. Also, knowing the names of generals and officers present in the field helps to predict the enemy's plans and perspective correctly. By exploring their specialties and even knowing their department which they came from, Army of Intelligence, one can discern the type of war they have planned. Is it a hybrid war with weapons, a ground war, or just relying on Air Force, or a war based on security intelligence? Another step is studying the reports provided by our own agencies about the internal and field status of the forces so that the commander can gain knowledge about his commanders and personnel. He must establish close communication with them, review their training, work to improve their morale, address possible needs, and provide them with useful information. He must also study the battlefield on every possible way, from maps, hills, mountains, and even in the air, so that no gap or valley remain hidden from his view. This is not just a terrorist manual. It's also a manual for Al-Qaeda to fight on the field, say, in Afghanistan or in the Arabian Peninsula, in Yemen, because there's an Al-Qaeda presence there. When you know yourself well and know your enemy even better, and when you study the battlefield and draw a mental map for everything within it, including the situation, valleys, and gaps, and when you understand your men and their level of training, their psychological and mental abilities, and your ability to boost their morale, when you deeply understand everything you have, such as weapons, equipment, tools, devices, and intuitions, it can effectively use all these to engage in a series of battles. At that time, you will be well versed and experienced in the art of war. You can set the appropriate strategy, master the tactics, and create new initiatives and maneuvers. And when you use, and what Al-Qaeda basically is a guerrilla type organization. We're not talking about, the traditional first world methods of military. That's not what Al-Qaeda is about. Al-Qaeda is about employing unconventional guerrilla type means in a battlefield. And that's what this document is preparing the reader for. Remember, to Al-Qaeda, the world is the battlefield. Because what do they want? A caliphate, right? They want a caliphate where the entire world is a battlefield. And you have two subsections within that battlefield, the near enemy and the far enemy. That's what you have. And that's what the Egyptian Islamic Jihad commanders, like Mohammed ibn al-Faraj, Ahmed Rafai Taha, Khalid al-Islambuli, these are individuals that were involved with the assassination of the Egyptian president Anwar Sadat, where they talked about overthrowing socialist Arab governments apostates to them, to create a caliphate to fight against the West, the Jew and the Christian, in an ultimate battle for the world. Bin Laden tried to rush this because of his ego. Saif al-Adel is taking a long-term approach. And what is he going to do first? He's going to try and neutralize the West from within, not from abroad. And when your certainty in the mission you carry increases and you are eager to sacrifice for it, when you deny yourself and know that it is God who chooses you, who will achieve victory through him, this belief will protect you from the illusions of leadership and from the diseases that cause mental and psychological paralysis in those affected, preventing correct judgments and flexibility and mature responses. Listen to Allah, right? And Allah is not speaking to these people. Who's speaking to these people? Their commanders. Where are their commanders? Who are they? Who are they getting their orders from? The Al-Qaeda leadership, whether it's in Afghanistan, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in the Arabian Peninsula or Yemen. When you understand all of this and more, at that time, you will be free from illusions, rivalry, arguments, and conflicts that will taste true freedom. Thinking and planning will become smoother for you. And as a result, your intuitive sense will be enhanced and stimulated. Your ability to predict will increase, and you will respond to events more quickly and with more mature reactions. At this stage, we can say that you have reached balance and equilibrium and achieved stability of heart and firmness in your steps. And what Saif al-Adel is telling the operative here is that when you alleviate all the stresses of life, when you disavow the opinions of others, when you blank out the criticisms of others, and you listen to your inner voice, which is the thoughts of the commanders that are telling them how to operate, you will achieve freedom from who? Freedom from who? The West, who are oppressing who? The Muslims. I'm not saying that I agree with this, mindset or this review by Saif al-Adel. I don't. And the reason why I'm reading these is so that you can understand what they are thinking. Because I have too many people who watch, who opine their thoughts on, they're all just animals, the Muslims. That's how they all think. No, they do not. Don't be simple-minded. Learn to critique, learn to accept information and run it through the scientific method. Learn the true nature of your enemy as well as your friend. And stop listening to the opinions of others. Do not allow for worldviews to prejudice your mind. That's a key point here. If you're a Christian, evangelical Christian, you're going to see Islam as what? Oh, it's a heretic religion. It's an evil religion. But you never even bothered to read the Quran, because to you, anything else is unworldly, is worldly. It's corrupt. It's not. They're all intervening with each other. And you have to read these things. This is what the thoughts of some people are thinking. That's why I read these to you, to have you informed about what could be coming and what I think is coming. All right. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.